I've been hearing all this hate about Ethereum lately. People are just getting tired of it, tired of the high gas fees, tired of the network in general. But it is the oldest and probably most developed DeFi play in the entire crypto space. And we should be careful about fading it because usually when you start getting really negative sentiment on Ethereum, you know what happens. It starts to build towards a nice massive rally. I'm not saying it's going to happen now, but we do need to look at Ethereum. It's been a while. This is crypto simulation theory. I'm the Gaussian snake, and this is not financial advice. So Ethereum on the weekly time frame, I have the alligator jaws, just for a reminder. The green is the mouth of the alligator, the red is the teeth, and the blue are the jaws. It is bullish when the mouth is above the teeth, is above the jaws. Alligator is sleeping when they're crisscrossing, and the alligator is pretty much rolled over upside down in this configuration that we're currently in. Now, Ethereum has respected this long-term trend line for quite some time after breaking above it in 2020, and it has tested it in 2022 several times. It tested it in 2023, and it's testing it again in 2024. So the question is, will this hold, or is Ethereum about to have another leg down? Um, I mean, we can definitely say without a shadow of a doubt that Ethereum is underperforming Bitcoin drastically. If you compare this chart to the Bitcoin chart, we will look at ETH Bitcoin a little bit later. But just I like the alligator indicator. It shows us that things are not looking so great right now for Ethereum USD. If we were to turn on the Gunnar EMA, we would see that there was a bearish cross on week of August 5th. Ethereum is trying to challenge its bear market resistance band and is getting rejected at the upper boundary. So most likely it will probably roll over again, but we just don't know how much it will roll over. So that's what we're going to kind of look into with some of our indicators. Okay, doing a whole moving average analysis on Ethereum, and you can see the pattern of death crosses is well underway. Let's go ahead and put on the arrow. We have the 10-week death crossing in July. We had the 20-week death crossing with the 100-week in also in July. We had the 40-week death crossing with the 100-week in August, and the 50-week death crossing with the 100-week in it looks like August as well. And then we had death crosses even with a 200-week. So Ethereum, and look at Ethereum is facing resistance at its 200-week, whereas Bitcoin is well above its 200-week. This is not great. Not a great thing. So it does look like more weakness may be in store for Ethereum just based on how this looks. I'm not even sure if this 100 week is going to make it for a death cross as well on the 200 week. But Ethereum is definitely lagging behind Bitcoin, which is, this is normal. This happens. Bitcoin dominance is like approaching 61%. So it's really not a shock to see Ethereum struggling like this. Okay, so the ADX and DI for Ethereum has a trend strength of around 29.47, which is a strong trend. And it is technically a bear trend because the red is above the green, although right now things are looking a little more neutral. The good news is the ADX crossed through the bear DI. So that can indicate that a trend change may be slowly materializing. It doesn't mean that bearish price action is over, but notice the pattern of lower highs on the ADX and DI. That is an encouraging sign kind of moving forward that maybe the worst for Ethereum is behind us and we can start to see a change in trend materialize in the coming months. So, it's not the prettiest picture, but it certainly, Ethereum's bear market. Well, I mean, if you want to call it that, I mean, this actually looks, you could call it a crab market if you want. I mean, it's a little bit more in the bear market realm than crab market, probably for, Bitcoin did a crab market. ETH kind of, has had a rough time here, but whatever. We'll call it a crab market. So, but yeah, things are starting to look like they might, once you get this cross right here, generally, that can sometimes indicate that the worst is behind you. Not always, though. See, this happens in bull markets too, and then you get a big pop. So yeah, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. Okay, this is the wave trend oscillator, which is still hovering well below zero. Now, the good news is it does appear to have carved out some kind of bottom here. I would like to explore briefly to see how often these levels have been hit, these bottom levels, and when they were hit in the past. So you can see that it was hit actually kind of like almost like a double bottom, which that's actually kind of like a little bit bullish. This level was hit in October 2023. Ethereum really did some great things after that. Um, Although it, still underperformed Bitcoin. Ethereum had a very, very nasty dive in July of 2022 and actually printed a green dot, which marked off a period of bullish divergence for it on the wave trend. We can see in from November 2019 to January 2020, Ethereum actually dipped below these levels. And it did so in August 18 in the bear market to February of 19, hit those levels. So I guess we don't need to keep going with this, but the point is we've hit levels recently that don't get hit very often. Now, that doesn't mean this can't roll over, and even print a green dot potentially. I don't know if that's going to happen, but this is sort of an encouraging sign. You look at the majority of this downward move. I don't think that what's to come for Ethereum is necessarily going to be super volatile. I'm not sure if this trend line will hold. I have to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it will. That is something I'm very iffy on. This M shape or double top generally doesn't end very well. So there is a possibility that we do come underneath this trend line and it might act as resistance briefly, heading into the next few weeks or so. It's really hard to tell. I mean, a lot of it just depends on what Bitcoin does, right? Bitcoin breaks out to a new all-time high and surges past it. Ethereum is probably going to continue to, do relatively decently. This is not impressive at all. But the rotation of capital has not hit Ethereum yet. The spotlight's on Bitcoin right now, so it's not totally surprising. Now you've seen the price momentum oscillator for Bitcoin, and remember it got close to 100 back in around this time. In February, Ethereum only got up to around 83, and that's a level that it's a high level, but and it's not one that gets hit often in Ethereum's history. But it's one of the lower levels that it's hit in a while. It looks like it could have possibly bottomed in the price momentum oscillator. It doesn't mean more downside is impossible or improbable, but I don't know that this bottom will get taken out. We could come back down and test it and maybe print a higher low. But look at Ethereum's signal line. It's gone concave up. So my thought is that once again, this just confirms that the bulk of the bearish move for Ethereum is probably over. And whatever bearishness is yet to come probably won't be super volatile compared to what's already come. That doesn't mean Ethereum can't, again, drop below the trend line. There is this red zone that, it's tested its support successfully. Will it come back to test that red zone? I don't know. I'm really, really hard to say. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to get deep into this red zone. Could it potentially tap it one last time? Maybe. Um, that's possible. I think what we should do is go back and look at fibs and VRVP with Ethereum, and maybe we can draw some kind of idea of what might occur based off that. Okay, so I'm going to throw some VRVP on here. There it is. We can see that Ethereum printed a double top in March, and again in June, roughly unable to overcome the 886 fib, which was at $4,000, and it went all the way down to the 618, which it has more or less held. I mean, it did test the zero point 0.5, which was former resistance, and it's held that fairly well, and it's filled out, a decent amount of volume at the 618. So the base of the 618 right now is about $2,500. Will Ethereum go below and test the zero point 0.5 again at 2,000? I mean, it could, it could, but and it hasn't been convincingly holding the 618. But I mean, I think we should be open-minded to the idea that it could get down to around $2,000. That could happen, right? We could come back and test the zero point 0.5. Could it go below the zero point 0.5 to the 382 at 1,700? I don't think so. I think worst case scenario is it tests these highs right here, which is around $1,900. I can't see it going any lower than that. But yeah, it's not looking particularly strong right now. And we could slap a Gaussian channel on here, and I'm imagining the Gaussian channel doesn't look great. Oh, this is the 2-week. 2-week looks lovely. Okay, so maybe this accidental use of the 2-week might actually prove to be, where will Ethereum go? Well, yeah, I mean, so the 0.5 is right around where the median line of the Gaussian channel is, and 2-week Gaussians are really hard to break, and we've got that nice green upward momentum. So it's possible we could wick, like I said, we could wick down maybe below the point 0.5 one last time. But I have a hard time seeing it get like line in the sand for me is like right here around 1900 bucks, 1800, 1900. I don't think it go lower than that. So I guess we ask another question is once Ethereum finally does get going, and we'll answer sort of the when does it get going, how high could it go? Well, we know the one fib is like around $5,000. Now Ethereum is like a cycle behind Bitcoin, and Bitcoin in the last cycle, I think managed to get up around the 1.618. I think somewhere around there. So if Ethereum can get to the 1.618 fib, that currently is at $14,000, which is roughly a give or take a 7x move from where Ethereum is right now, and that would be um, about a 21x from the cycle low of around where was it, like 900 bucks. So yeah, that could happen. We could even get above the 1.618, get to the 1.786. It's around 18.7k. I think the two is a bit of a stretch. I don't think we're going to get there, but if we did, it'd be 27k. So I think it's reasonable to expect Ethereum to top this cycle somewhere between 14,000, best case 20k. I think it could get to 20k, but it probably would come much later. Ethereum tends to run last. So um, yeah, just some price targets potentially for Ethereum as it heads into next year. Right? I don't think we're going to hit any of these this year. I mean, I think Ethereum could certainly it could certainly rally, but I don't think we're going to see Ethereum do anything that crazy this year. I think next year will be more likely Ethereum's year. If you go back and watch some of my oldest videos on ETH Bitcoin, this is what we're looking at now, ETH Bitcoin on the weekly. I drew this long-term trend line that goes back, many years. Like we're talking all the way back to 2019, to a 5-year trend line, and I said it's probably going to break, and it broke. And I drew this red zone between 0.03 and 0.04, and I said that's likely going to be Ethereum Bitcoin's final resting place. A lot of people didn't believe me, and that's okay. Um, it happened. We just couldn't get up to this Gaussian channel. Now, I think there's going to be a wicked mean reversion coming off of this whenever this thing bottoms. One thing I would like to do is look at this in a little more detail, with including I want to do a fib analysis and everything with ETH Bitcoin, just like I did with ETHUSD. It's like why hold Ethereum if Bitcoin's outperforming it, right? I mean, yeah, but if Ethereum Bitcoin valuation gets low enough, then the risk of not holding Ethereum can start to outweigh the risk of holding it, right? And I think we are getting near some of those levels for sure. You can see the Gaussian channel here might be inflecting. It is widening. These are signs that a pretty sharp mean reversal is probably in the works. Let's slap on a moving average ribbon and see what it looks like for ETH Bitcoin. When it comes to using indicators, you don't have to get fancy. Sometimes simple is best. And honestly, I love whole moving averages. They just tell such a great story. We had our series of death crosses long ago. I mean, the 200 week has been acting as resistance for such a long time. I mean, for years. We've not, I mean, the closest we got to overcoming it was near the summer of 2024. And yeah, I mean, it's all the way down at 0.047 sats. ETH Bitcoin is like a whole point, 0.01 sat below that. This is screaming mean reversion. Now, whether that mean reversion is to the 100 week or to the 200 week, I don't know. But I think a pretty strong mean reversion is coming. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if it came near the end of this year as we head into December, or even in November, late November, but more so looking towards kind of the December timeframe if we get a sharp mean reversion up to the 200 week. And then maybe we come back down again and put in a higher low, and then sometime in early 2025 we could see Ethereum start to make moves and turn around and really make a go for this trend line, which I think will act as resistance probably on the first tap, but maybe at some point it'll get back above it next year. So I think the bear market for ETH Bitcoin is almost over. I think it's so close to being over. Maybe it only has another month left, like 2 months at most. I think it's almost over. And if we pull up the reverse Chande momentum oscillator on the 2 week for ETH Bitcoin, I'm imagining it's going to look pretty darn exhausted. Here's what the 2 week looks like. And I'll take out the moving average ribbon in a second, but I want to go to the reverse Chande momentum oscillator, which is up here. And yeah, I mean, signal line is red. Okay. Look at this ugly, ugly downtrend that we've had going on. I mean, with price momentum all the way. This is against Bitcoin since April of 2021. It's been years. Look at that. I mean, I don't know how you want to draw this. Like, you can say, okay, we kind of got back above it for a little while. You know, really not sure how to draw this trend line. That might be a good way to draw it. We got above it. Head and shoulders are weighed back down, and now we're trying to stay on it. I think there's a decent chance this holds. The signal line is red, but we just had a nice burst of green. So maybe we get a little bit more red, and then we start to build our way back up, and maybe the trend starts to change. Could the trend have already started to change? Yes, potentially, especially if this um, red signal line puts in a higher low, then then basically December 2023 may have marked the bottom of price momentum going down for ETH Bitcoin. And I would say it's a pretty good chance that's happened. So this will bottom long before ETH Bitcoin bottoms. So might it have a double bottom and a slightly higher low? Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna come down that low again though. Like, these are not levels that are hit often. You can see in 2018 we had a double bottom and the second bottom was higher. Right? The trend had already changed and something similar is probably playing out here if I had to guess. So might we come back below the line? Yeah, we might, but I think we'll come back up pretty quickly. And I think some of that might happen at the end of the year or possibly early next year. That's kind of what I'm eyeing here. So for these fibs, I actually went back to Ethereum's all-time high against Bitcoin in June of 17, and then I went ahead and used the bottom from September 2019 to draw fibs. Ethereum during the last cycle didn't even quite make it to the 786. It seemed to spend a lot of time straddling the 618, which acted as very strong support until it wasn't. And then most recently, it was straddling the point 0.5, and then that fell out, and it didn't even bother with the 382, just kind of sliced right through it, which to me looks like a final capitulation moment. There's so much support where we're at right now. Like if you look at ETH Bitcoin, between the 0.02853 Satoshis or I should say 0.2853 Bitcoin or 2853 sats up to 3389 sats. So I think that a worst case scenario bottom for ETH Bitcoin would be right there at about 0.03389. I don't really see it getting too much below that because we're coming up on some pretty nice areas of horizontal support, even where we're at right now, to be honest with you. So ETH Bitcoin could have already bottomed, or so I will say, like it's either already bottomed or it's super close to bottoming. I don't think it has much further left to go. Um, and I think it will make a go for it, and you have a nice mean reversion. If I had to guess, right to the 0.5 fib, and I don't think it's going to come below the 382 again for probably years. And yeah, where will it go from there? Who the heck knows? Because I don't know if this is Ethereum gearing up for a larger move against Bitcoin next year. That could happen. We could see Ethereum really make a go for it. Or Ethereum could, be a bleeder. Like we really just don't know. I'm not going to make guesses. I have no clue. There's nothing but air if we can get above the 618, right? The 618 was a real, the 786 was a huge challenge. I mean, we haven't even touched the 786 with ETH Bitcoin, which is around zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. We haven't touched it in like, by next year, it'll be almost 7 years. So that would be quite an accomplishment. Excuse me, my camera turned off. That would be quite an accomplishment if ETH Bitcoin could do that. But I'm not really into making price predictions like this. That's just too difficult. So for now, I would say keep an eye on the 0.5. I think a mean reversion is coming very soon, and we need to talk about what that means for your portfolio strategy. So I guess the first question when it comes to Ethereum is, do you intend to just hold it as an asset to try and make money off of it, or are you more interested in the projects in its ecosystem? So for me, I'm more interested in the products in this ecosystem because I'm after more than a 7x or 8x best case scenario, right? I'm just, for myself, I want more than that. Now, there are going to be some projects that don't outperform Ethereum, so keep that in mind. But what is ETH Bitcoin telling us? What is, ETHUSD is not as important to me as ETH Bitcoin. ETH Bitcoin is telling me that basically at this point in the cycle, um, Ethereum is finding a bottom against Bitcoin. In other words, Bitcoin is going on its, last hurrah. Um, Bitcoin dominance is kind of in its last hurrah. Like, I'm not saying Bitcoin like won't go higher than whatever it goes on this leg, but what I am saying is that I think that this is the end of Bitcoin being king, um, for a little while, right? I think in 2025, altcoins and Ethereum and Solana, those are going to be the kings, and Bitcoin will be kind of more in the background. So, and you're seeing the setup for that already start to take place with Bitcoin coming all the way down to an area of major support. We're talking major support over like practically a 7 year period. So I would pay close attention to that. And this is not financial advice, but I would be thinking about my Bitcoin position and not focusing so much on the USD value. Like, oh, my Bitcoin's going to go to 130K. Folks, that's like not even a 2x from where we're at now. And I would start thinking more in terms of, the risk of holding so much Bitcoin is actually outweighing the risk of holding some ETH and alts, right? And maybe Solana. I mean, Solana will do a separate video on sometime, but I think with when it comes to Ethereum, I still think it is the king of the altcoins. I think it will always be the king of the altcoins. It's got the first mover advantage. It's like 10 years old. Anything else that tries to compete with it is just going to have to deal with the fact that Ethereum's been building out a lot longer. So I would be careful not to fade it, you know. And the projects on Ethereum, I know they've been doing nothing that exciting lately, but believe me, like you've been seeing altcoins popping off on Solana and Ethereum altcoins. Some of them have been doing really well. I mean, there's always going to be some, but in general, they just have been kind of depressed. And I think you're going to see that trend change quite dramatically next year. Next year, I think, will be Ethereum's year, and it's going to be the year where Ethereum comes roaring back. Now, a 7 or 8x from where we're at now could satisfy people who are happy with that, right? That is still a better return than you'll get out of most stocks in the stock market. But, the altcoins on Ethereum are probably going to return a lot more than that, at least some of the newer ones. The older ones, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of altcoins on Ethereum that look dead, right? Like Chainlink, Polygon, Uniswap. Um, we could go on and on. These are some older alts. I think some of them probably are dead, not the ones that I named, but I think there will be some that will wake up quite dramatically when Ethereum wakes up. Okay, and to kind of shock people at how dramatically some of these things can wake up. So I would keep an eye on even some of the coins that look like they're kind of dead right now, and ask yourself the question: do I think that these could roar back to life or not? I'm always in favor personally. I like to hold newer altcoins than the older ones, but the older ones, of course, could potentially carry less risk depending on how strong they are. And I can't give you any financial advice. This is just something you'd have to do on your own. Um, yeah, so that's one of my thoughts right now. I think this is sort of a stage where I would be evaluating the Bitcoin that I have in my portfolio and thinking about rolling over some of it into altcoins on the Ethereum network, potentially even rolling over some of it into ETH, because I think we're getting to where you might be getting too greedy if you're waiting for something to go lower. And that mean reversion looks like it's going to snap pretty hard to the upside. And if I had to give a timeline, I would say December would be kind of what I'd be looking at. Late December, January, somewhere in that range, I think Ethereum is going to shock people and rise from the dead. So I also want to say with ETHUSD, I've been hearing, some people have been talking about it going to like $1,200 or 1,000. Are you out of your freaking mind? I don't think it's going to go that low. There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that it would, or I mean, anything's possible, but I don't see it going lower than 17 or 1,800. That's like my absolute worst case. You have log regression, you've got all the time that's passed, you got the fibs. I have a lot of arguments for why I don't think Ethereum's going to go as low as some people think, just like Bitcoin didn't, right? Bitcoin didn't go below 49K. Now maybe it still could, but I'm gonna say with Ethereum, I don't see it going below 17, $1,800. And that for me is the worst case. Bitcoin would have to do some rolling over of its own to take Ethereum down there. And yeah, so I think most likely ETH Bitcoin breaks down on a Bitcoin uptrend. And then yeah, as Bitcoin continues going up, I think Ethereum Bitcoin finds its bottom, and maybe after the next FOMC meeting, which is coming up, that might be kind of the beginning of Ethereum's true bottoming process. And maybe sometime shortly after that, we see a snapback by ETH Bitcoin. December, could happen in December, could happen in January, but somewhere around there. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and share this video with others to get crypto simulation theory out there. I've been making videos and hustling all year long, so I really appreciate your support, even just a share, a like, sharing it in a Telegram group. And I'd love to have you join our Telegram group. It is 100% free, and we have some professional traders in there and people who are very focused on data-driven analysis. You won't find anything better in the crypto simulation than what we've got in our Telegram channel. Just have got some great minds in there, and it's all completely free to you. And I'm not trying to hide anything, or I haven't monetized any of this. So I value human capital, and I'll make my money off investing. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I think having a bunch of great minds together to pick the right altcoins and to sift through the data, that means a lot more to me. So I'd love to have you join our Telegram. Link is in the video description. So I'll be signing off now. I hope that you're having a great week. And, it's nice to see things in the crypto simulation improve. We've been waiting long enough, and I think we will get what we've been waiting for. Until next time, bye.